It's great to be together, isn't it? As we're coming together, I just want to say a big thank you to all of the different teams that serve, that make this happen every week. So I want to say thank you to our First Encounters team, those that are welcoming you and greeting you as you come in the door and ushering you, helping you find your seats, as well as our production team. None of this would happen, none of the sound would happen, and those of you that are joining us online wouldn't be able to see the broadcast of the service tonight because of the production team, and they do a fantastic job. And then a big thank you to Pastor Ray and our worship team, because as he was saying again tonight, we can't take for granted that we get to come together as a community every single week and engage with the Lord in worship and worship together with one another, lock arms, lock hearts together. And what a blessing, what a great gift that is to us as a body. And so I want to just say a big thank you to Pastor Ray and the worship team. And really, what an honor to be able to be together with you. We were able to celebrate Shabbat with several of you on Friday night. We gathered together up in the lobby of the pavilion. We had probably 55, 60 people, and we welcomed in the Shabbat with some outstanding food, lots of good food, probably too much food. And we also had lots of great deepening of relationships that already existed, as well as meeting some brand new friends and becoming a body together, becoming connected to one another in our hearts and our spirits. It was a great time. And so we want you to put that on your calendar, because we're going to do another Kabbalat Shabbat at the middle of August. So put that on your calendar. We'll give you more details as we get a little bit closer. And what we want to do this time is we want to do a Kabbalat Shabbat outside, where the weather is just a little bit cooler than being inside and trying to cook and have food inside. So we're going to meet at the park, and we're going to do barbecue. We're going to invite you to bring all of your favorite meats, and we're going to provide some of our favorite meats, and we're going to fellowship. That's all we're going to do, get to know each other a lot better, celebrate the Shabbat together, say those blessings, break the bread and the wine, and then break our hearts as we come close together and become one as a body, as a community. So put that on your calendar. I know that it'll be a great time. We're going to have some fun together, and we'll give you a little bit more information as we get a little bit closer. And then today we want to recognize and celebrate something that is extraordinary and special. Our founding pastor, Pastor Wayne and Ann, are celebrating their 45th wedding anniversary. Congratulations, guys. That doesn't happen every day, obviously. And we just want to say, well done. You guys are a wonderful example, and thank you for continuing to allow us to see your marriage, your love for one another, and Lord bless you guys. Amen. All right. And then just a quick reminder, our senior leader, Pastor Chad, is traveling. He's traveling for the ministry, traveling for King of Kings in the States, and has been there for about a month. And I'm telling you, his schedule is crazy. I'm just looking at his schedule, and it makes me tired just watching his schedule. And from afar, he's doing an outstanding job. Pastor Chad, we miss you. If you're online, I think that you're there. We miss you. We're looking forward to you being back with us. And we'll continue to pray for you. He's going to actually join us in a couple of weeks. He's going to be giving one of the messages online. It'll be either a live version of it or a recorded version, but we're excited to have him back with us for just a few moments together as we study together. So we're looking forward to that as well. Well, I ran across a list of statistics that I wanted to share with you tonight. It's really kind of some fun statistics, stuff that happens every day in America. Now, even if you're not American, this is interesting stuff. So listen to some of these statistics. Every single day in America, 108,000 people move to a different home. 18,000 of those actually move to a different state. So they're moving homes or to a different state. 18,000 people every single day move to a different state. We have 50 states to choose from in America. That means they have 49 to choose from. It's good stuff. Then 50 more pages of government regulation are issued every single day by the United States government. 50 new pages every day. Add that up for the whole year. Oh my goodness, like what are they regulating? There's like, we can't even follow all of those rules. Listen to this one. 40 Americans every single day turn 100 years old. That's amazing, isn't it? Fascinating. 5,800 turn 65, and 8,000 turn 40 years old and try to forget that it happened. Every day in America, 167 businesses go bankrupt. Every day. And 689 new ones start every single day. 45,000 new automobiles, brand new automobiles, are purchased every single day in America. That's pretty amazing. At the exact same time, 87,000 cars get smashed up. I don't know if that means they're old and they can't drive anymore, so they smash them, or they just get in wrecks, or both, but 87,000 cars get smashed every day in America. Every day, 20,000 people write letters to the United States president. He gets 20,000 letters every single day. No wonder he's so busy. More than 6,300 people get divorced every day. At the exact same time, 13,000 get married every day. I was astounded by that. Every day, 13,000 Americans are getting married. Now listen to this statistic. Every day, 11,000 U.S. citizens get bit by a dog. I think they have a dog problem. 11,000 people. 20 of those are mail carriers. Every day, Americans eat 75 acres, 303,000 square meters. So get that picture in your head. Every day, they eat 75 acres, 303,000 square meters of pizza. That's a lot of pizza. 53 million hot dogs, 167 million eggs, 3 million gallons of ice cream. Come on, now we're talking. And 3,000 tons of candy. That's just crazy. And because they eat all of that food, Americans jog 17 million miles a day. Can you believe that? 17 million miles are run by Americans every single day. Every day, 4,109 Americans parachute from the sky just for the fun of it. Burglars strike every 10 seconds. And a car is stolen every 33 seconds in America. That's fascinating, isn't it? Like, too many things happening all at one time. Like, as I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, okay, Israel, how many falafel balls do you think we eat in a year? It's got to be billions of falafel balls. Just amazing, just a small glimpse of the details of normal life. And we're not even mentioning the starting and stopping of schools and classes and studying, and the beginning and loss of jobs, the number of people that are born and pass away, the number of people that are diagnosed with sicknesses or diseases, the number of people that start new relationships and make new friendships. Wow, this is amazing stuff. Life is amazing. And just think about, this is what is amazing to me. Just think about everything that you have to know to be able to do life. Like all of the information that you have to gather, everything that we need to know to be able to do schooling, education, learning, everything about relationships that we need to know if we're married and how to do that, if we're parenting and how to do that, and friendships, what we need to know to be able to do that. And what about working, making a living, and everything that we have to know to be able to do our jobs and to start businesses, to end businesses, to navigate the relationships in the workspace. Buying and selling of houses and cars and supplies and all that stuff that we need to be able to make life happen. And then think about this. How much work goes into just taking care of ourselves? How much do you have to know to be able to gather your food, make your food, dress yourself, clean yourself, take care of your house, your car, your pets, your children if you have them? Wow. It's phenomenal the amount of information that as human beings we have to know. Now, in some ways, that information is static. It's knowledge and information that we've collected and accumulated and stored up so that we don't have to think every day how to eat and how to dress and how to clean the house around us. But it is amazing and even staggering in some ways to think about how much we have to know to approach and to manage, to handle those very complex parts of our lives, our relationships, our finances, and so on, and the number of different situations and settings that we find ourselves in that make up our everyday lives, whether it's spiritual or emotional or educational or financial, relational, and so on. And then as believers, how many things do we have to know to be able to walk that narrow path of obedience and walking with the Lord? It's staggering. It's absolutely amazing the amount that we can store in our heads and in our hearts and know to be able to do the things that we do. But here's a thought that's even a little bit more amazing, a little bit more staggering. Think about how much we really don't know when we hit those situations in life that are super complex, where we hit a fork in the road and we don't know which way to go. The pros and the cons are even. And we don't know, how do we do this? How do I handle this situation at work? How do I make this decision about what my future is going to be? How do I get out of this financial crisis? And we've all hit those things in our lives, problems where we just did not know what to do. We couldn't figure out what's a good answer. There doesn't seem to be a good answer. We can't seem to figure out how to go forward. And those moments are frustrating. Those moments are hurtful in some ways and very, very difficult. And have you ever noticed that when you're in one of those seasons, those moments where you're struggling to find an answer, and if you share your need with other people, I just don't know what to do. Have you ever noticed that you get lots of good advice? In fact, if you share that with 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different ways to handle that situation, that crisis, that problem. Or if you Google it, you're going to find 10 different pages on how to handle this financial situation, how to handle this relational problem that you're having. It's absolutely amazing. And I know people's hearts are in the right place, but sometimes people just can't give you what they themselves don't have. There's a story in the Bible of a man who had a similar experience. We all know the story probably of Job, and Job's story is very unique. And the thing that Job experienced was probably unbelievable to most of us. We wouldn't even know how to walk through the things that Job walked through. And there's Job, and he loses everything. So we can't even comprehend it. We can say it, but we don't have a category for it in our hearts or in our minds. He loses everything of value. His whole family, all of his wealth, all of his possessions, all of his stature is destroyed in a day, in a single day. The only thing left is his wife, and she criticizes him and condemns him. And then a short while after that, we don't know how much time goes by, but now Job is struck with illness, and he has boils all over his body, and he's literally barely hanging on to life. And we catch up with Job, and he's sitting in a pile of ashes. He's sitting in the trash pile of the community, barely alive, barely existing. And Job's so-called friends gather around him, and they just sit there for a while, and they don't say anything. And then Job begins to do what all of us probably would have done a lot sooner. He begins to curse the day that he was born. Why was I ever even born? Why is this all happening to me? And where is God? And why is God allowing this to happen? And why is this taking place? I haven't done anything. And this prompts his friends to give him their advice, to share with them their deep insights and their wisdom. And so these so-called friends start to give him their advice and their guidance, their human wisdom, and what he needs to do to get out of this situation that he's in. And then if that wasn't enough, then they say that, Job, this has actually happened because you've sinned. If you just get your life right, Job, if you just turn things around, if you just turn your heart back to God, this wouldn't even be happening to you. So it's all on you, Job. You need to make this work. And this argument goes back and forth for chapters and chapters of the book of Job, and it's fascinating reading. And I challenge you to read it because there's some really, truly deep insights there. First of all, when it comes to counseling, counselors, the best thing you can do is listen sometimes. And then give the Lord room to give you wisdom to share. But his friends finally bring Job to a point where he responds and he counters them with all of their foolishness. And he calls them out on their foolishness. And he says to them, this is chapter 26 and first 4 verses. I'm reading from the Message version. He says, well, you've certainly been a great deal of help to a helpless man. You came to the rescue just in the nick of time. What wonderful advice you've given to a mixed up man. What amazing insights you've provided. Where in the world did you learn all of this? How did you become so inspired? Calling them out on their lack of wisdom, their deficit of wisdom, highlighting that they were giving just human advice. And then Job poetically begins to describe for his friends in chapter 28. If you want, grab your Bibles, open up to chapter 28. He begins to describe for his friends and for us what it was that he really needed. This thing called wisdom, divine wisdom. He begins to describe for these friends what they were missing in all of the advice that they were giving to him and what it was that he really needed. And I want us to listen to this precise description of this rare, hard to find, priceless commodity, quality, and asset that God wants us to have. So let's look at Job 28. I'm reading again from the Message version. You can follow along with us. And Job says to his friends, we already all know how silver seams the rocks. We've seen the stuff from which gold is refined. We're aware of how iron is dug out of the ground and copper is smelted from rock. Miners penetrate the earth's darkness, searching the roots of the mountains for ore, digging away into the suffocating darkness. Far from civilization, far from the traffic, they cut a shaft and are lowered by ropes down into the earth. Earth's surface is a field for grain, but its depths are a forge, firing sapphires from stones and chiseling gold from rocks. Vultures are blind to it. Lions don't know where it is. Miners hammer away at the rock. They uproot the mountains. They tunnel through the rock, and they find all kinds of beautiful gems. They discover the origins of rivers and bring Earth's secrets to light. Then Job says, but where? Oh, where will they find wisdom? Where does insight hide? Mortals, people, don't have a clue. They haven't the slightest idea where to look. Earth's depths say, it's not here. Ocean deeps echo, never heard of it. It can't be bought with the finest gold, no matter the amount of silver or gold. No amount of silver can get it. Even the famous Ophir gold can't buy it, not even diamonds and sapphires. Neither gold nor emeralds are comparable. Extravagant jewelry can't get it. Pearl necklaces and ruby bracelets, why bother? None of this is even a down payment on wisdom. Pile gold and African diamonds as high as you will. They can't hold a candle to wisdom. So Job says, where does wisdom come from? And where does insight live? It can't be found by looking, no matter how deep you dig, no matter how high you fly. If you search through the graveyard and you question all of the people that are dead, all those that have lived before, they're going to say, we've only heard rumors of it. God alone, Job says, God alone knows the way to wisdom. He knows the exact place to find it. He knows where everything is on earth. He sees everything under heaven. After he commanded the winds to blow and measured out the waters, he arranged for the rain and set off explosions of thunder and lightning. He focused on wisdom, made sure that it was all set and tested and ready. And then he addressed the human race. Here it is. Fear of the Lord, that's wisdom. And insight means shunning evil. The NIV version says, then he looked at wisdom and he appraised it, he confirmed it and tested it. And he said to the human race, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to shun evil is understanding. Powerful, powerful description of wisdom. Job helps us see that wisdom, true wisdom, divine wisdom, isn't easily collected. It isn't easily gathered and mined and somehow acquired by our human ingenuity and our human creativity and our human design. Otherwise, only a few could actually collect it and acquire it. Then Job describes for us the value of it, and he says it's far above anything that we can humanly imagine. So pause there for just a second and think about how wealthy is wealthy. How much is wealthy? What is it that you could even put down to purchase wisdom? He says it can't be purchased for any amount of wealth. A friend of ours just returned from a wedding where he said that the family of the bride and groom, the family spent in the vicinity of $3 to $4 million on one wedding. Now, this is the thing. If wisdom could be purchased, wealthy people would purchase it. They would spare no expense. But Job tells us it can't be purchased. There isn't an amount of money that you could lay down and gather wisdom. Otherwise, only wealthy people could obtain wisdom. Job highlights that wisdom is only found in one place. I need to say that again. Wisdom is only found in one place. And that wisdom is only gotten in one way. It's found in one place and it's gotten one way. God says to the whole human race, that's everyone, here it is. This is wisdom. I have it. God alone knows the way to wisdom. He understands the way to it. He alone knows where it dwells, its exact place to find it. And this is what wisdom looks like. He says, wisdom is the fear of the Lord. That walking in awe of who God is. A submitting, a humbling, a bowing down of our hearts before our God, the Lord over our lives, the master of all creation, and acknowledging that in his hands is all power, that he is the authority, and submitting our hearts and our minds to that. The fear of the Lord is shunning, staying away from, and avoiding evil, not seeing how close we can get to it without it sticking to us. Which means wisdom, God's wisdom, is available for every single person, for anyone, for everyone. They can have it. It isn't off limits, but you can't get it at the McCulloch. You can't get it at the convenience store. It's not in any of the places where mankind would say that it exists. In college universities and schools and other human places that would say, this is where you can go to get wisdom. It's not in those places. But it's available to all. A-L-L, every single human being, man or woman, it doesn't matter. Old or young, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be old to get wisdom. Wise or foolish, it doesn't matter. If you already have wisdom, it doesn't mean you have all of it. You can get more. Or if you're foolish and you realize I need more wisdom, it's available to all, to anyone and to everyone. All of those men, women, and children who are willing to come to God and in the fear of the Lord walk with obedient lives before Him and follow in His ways. This is what wisdom is. See, Job's friends thought that they had wisdom. They thought that they knew everything that they needed to know, that they needed to give to Job about who God is and the way God works. But in the end, all the wisdom that Job's friends could give to Job was just a lot of information about God, about God's way. They only knew the information. They didn't actually know the wisdom that comes from being in relationship and submitted to the God of all creation. So they were spouting information, but not true wisdom. And I challenge you to read back through the book of Job. I've always read the book of Job with this picture that the friends were as wise as Job. And this time, for the very first time, and not because I knew we were going to do this study, I looked at it differently. Like, Job's friends literally don't know God, but they're knowing a lot about God. And Job has a totally different perspective because he knows God. The world around us, like Job's friends, think that they have the corner on wisdom. They think they know what wisdom is and how to gather wisdom, because as a culture, as a population, we've gathered tons of information, tons of truths and tons of facts, maybe more information than has ever been collected and amassed by one generation before. We have it. And yet, if I'm honest, when I look around, I would say that our world has a giant wisdom deficit. And we can all shake our heads, yes, there's a giant wisdom deficit, but I want us to go a little bit deeper here, because this deficit isn't just restricted to the world and to the non-believing. If I'm being honest, it's a problem I see a little bit closer to home. I see it in my own life. I have a wisdom deficit. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. As believers, we have a wisdom deficit. The body of Messiah has a wisdom deficit. Because this is what happens. Too often, too many of us think that because we're believers, because we're followers of Yeshua, because we come to congregation, because we read our Bibles, because we have the corner on wisdom. But it doesn't work that way. Being a believer, going to church, reading your Bible does not make you wise. Job is clear that that's not what wisdom is, and it's not where wisdom is found. Wisdom, he says, is the fear of the Lord. That's wisdom. Do I have the fear of the Lord? Am I walking in the fear of the Lord? Do I shun evil? Or am I walking as close as I can to it and hoping that it won't stick to me? Not willing to run away from it and to remove it from every area of my life. Proverbs 9 says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is just the beginning of wisdom. And the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. And friends, this is what we're missing. We've gathered lots of truths and lots of information, but what we're missing has created a deficit in our own lives and in the communal life of the body of Messiah. And in the lives of the people in the world around us. Fear of the Lord, that's what's missing. People that are willing to bow their hearts and their lives and everything about their lives before God and allow Him to be sovereign in our lives. And shunning evil, I don't even know where to go with this one. Shunning evil is what we're missing. Men and women who are willing to step away from the things of the world that are evil. Too many of us are stepping into evil because the friends around us who are believers are also stepping into it. And it creates in us a wisdom deficit. Shunning evil, willing to step away from all brands and all levels of evil in our lives. That's what we need to do. That's what we're missing. See, this isn't just some small part of our walk with Yeshua. This is the core of what God has called us to do. To walk in the fear of the Lord. To walk in a way where we are humble in our hearts before our God. To walk in a way where we continually have our perspective that God is in control, that we're not in control. And to shun evil, to despise it, to reject it, to scorn it, to hate it. We don't hate evil enough. And it's created a deficit in our spirits of wisdom. So, we want to invite you. We want to invite you on a journey for the next several weeks. We want you to join us as we begin exploring this thing called wisdom. And as we launch this new series, we're launching a series tonight, Living Wisdom. And the idea, we're playing on words there. Wisdom is what gives life, but we're also going to look at how to live wisdom. It's living wisdom that imparted to us gives us life, but then how do we live wisdom? And so starting tonight and throughout the weeks of the summer, we're going to be diving into the book of Proverbs, mainly. And what we want to do is begin our journey by acknowledging that we have a deficit. Personally and corporately, we have a deficit of wisdom. And instead of thinking that we somehow have the corner on it and we already have wisdom and I'm already a believer, so I have wisdom, it doesn't work that way. So we're going to spend the next several weeks discovering what we don't know about God's wisdom. And here's the thing, wisdom isn't just a collection of more information. We have to step away from that idea. We're not going to just give you more information every week. That's not what wisdom is. See, you and I live in a time in history where we've gathered more information than ever before. We have access to more information instantly than ever before. And as I look around, I have to say we aren't growing a whole lot wiser. In fact, I would probably say we're growing less wise. Because men and women are stepping away from God's ways. We're stepping away from His prescription for wisdom. We're stepping away from the fear of the Lord and shunning evil in our lives. James tells us that if any of you lack wisdom, you should just ask God. If you know that you have a deficit, ask God. He's the source. Remember that it's only found in one place. So ask Him. He has the supply. Ask God who gives generously. He doesn't just give a little bit here and a little bit there. He gives generously to all. Again, all. You don't have to be a man. You don't have to be a woman. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be some kind of special person with lots of money. He gives generously to all who ask without finding fault. And this is what we want to do then in the coming weeks. Simply acknowledge that we have a deficit of wisdom, that nobody sitting in this room has a corner on wisdom. There are no Solomons sitting in this room. There are no Solomons online. Think about Solomon for just a second. Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. Where did he get his wisdom? He wasn't born that way. Solomon acknowledged, he realized, oh my gosh, I have a deficit. I have a huge deficit. Look at this responsibility that I have as the king of all of Israel. I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. God, if you're going to give me anything, give me wisdom. That's what I need. I don't need a lot of money. That's not going to help me lead these people. That's how we get wisdom. We acknowledge first our deficit. We're going to approach wisdom with this understanding that wisdom isn't primarily knowing truth. You and I know lots of truth. Rather, wisdom is the skillful art of living out that truth. There's a difference. Are we living out the truths that we say that we believe and we know in our everyday lives, no matter what kind of conditions we find ourselves in? We're going to find that the book of Proverbs is the greatest place for us to tap into this thing called wisdom, to understand it, what God is offering for our lives. Because Proverbs is like all of the pages of the Bible, all of the stories, the legislation, the prayers, the sermons, the character studies, all of the truths that are spread out over the thousands of pages of the Bible, all condensed, all boiled down into these powerful and potent images that Proverbs gives to us. Enduring and robust one-liners that stick with us forever. Axioms, maxims to live our lives by. Pieces of information to transform the way that we live. Listen to some of these lines. When there are many words, Proverbs says, sin is unavoidable. But the one who controls his lips is prudent. My message just got 10 minutes shorter. A wise son responds to his father's discipline, but a mocker doesn't listen to rebuke. The one who will not use the rod hates his son, but the one who loves him disciplines him with diligence. A gentle answer turns away anger. How many have used that before? A gentle answer turns away anger, but a harsh word stirs up wrath. Powerful, potent images that are easy to memorize, that are easy to remember. They're harder to live, but they're easy for us to grab a hold of. All of the Bible's wisdom is boiled down into this one amazing book. So we're going to look at the wisdom, and the wisdom has much to do with how we become skillful in honoring our parents, raising our children, doing our work, conducting our sexual lives, using our words and our mouths, honoring and treating friendships and relationships the right way, treating our spouses the right way, handling emotions and attitudes. And how do we do all of those things skillfully? In the coming weeks, we're going to explore each of these very important, crucial parts of our lives, these complex parts of our lives, How do we do all of these things? My roommate and I in college used to have a joke when we were both single guys. How do our dads get so smart? And then we'd shrug. They went to dad school. And then I became a dad, and I found out what dad school is. Dad school is waking up at midnight when your son is crying and screaming because he just had a bad dream. Dad school is the everyday living out what it means to be a dad. There is no such place as a dad school. We're going to look at how God has called us to live godly lives on the earth, and then he's empowered us with his wisdom to do it. And the question that I have is then, where are we going to find our wisdom? Where do you go to find your wisdom when you're stuck in a relational issue, a problem at work, a financial issue, a spiritual matter that you don't know what to do with? Where are you going for wisdom? Google, how do you solve marital problems? You're going to find 20 different pages with 20 different answers. Or you're going to share it with 10 different friends, and they're all going to have different answers, different advice. God's designed it that we would come to him for those answers. God Google. The book of Proverbs is a great place to start, but the whole Bible will find cross-references all of these pieces of information and truth and wisdom. So we want to start gathering God's wisdom for our lives and collecting it and then applying it to these very crucial parts of our lives, the complex parts of life that we really don't know what to do with because we're operating out of a deficit. The book of Proverbs tells us that the one who gets wisdom loves life. The one who cherishes understanding will soon prosper. Do you want to love life? Do you want to soon prosper? It says how much better it is to get wisdom than gold and get insight rather than silver. If you're running after silver and gold, if you're running after the possessions of this worldly life, you're going to be bankrupt. You're going to be empty. You're going to see deficit of wisdom in your life. Now, here's the thing. I believe that right now, we, the body of Messiah, those in the room, those that are joining us online, those that are going to watch this later, we need a massive download of divine wisdom. Right now, more than ever before, because of the days that you and I are living in, we're living in some of the most unique days that I've ever experienced. And I'm only 60 years old. I'm young. These days are dark days. They're challenging days. But God promises us that challenging and dark days for us as believers actually offers to us some amazing opportunities that wouldn't be there if the days weren't dark and if they weren't challenging. But we can't do anything amazing. We can't meet any of those opportunities if we're operating out of human, worldly, man-made wisdom. If we're Googling our way through life, we're not going to get anywhere. Paul says to the Ephesians in chapter 5, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Be very careful then. How are you living? Not as unwise, but as wise. Make the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. That's where we're living. We have many opportunities in front of us because the days are evil if we will tap into God's divine wisdom. Paul says, therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. God's will is for us to be wise, not unwise. We cannot do this without God's wisdom. We can't make the most of every opportunity. Otherwise, we're just going to live foolish and meaningless lives. Worship team, you guys can come on up. Here's the thing. Life is too precious. It's too valuable. There are too many important opportunities that lie right in front of us. Too costly of outcomes. We're talking eternal differences. To try to do life without God's wisdom. And we're starting at a place of deficit. I watch too many, so I'm going to get really personal here. I watch too many believers in social media spouting foolishness. These are men and women of God who are spouting the wisdom of the world, if you will. The world doesn't need more spouting of our trying to defend God, trying to defend our beliefs. God doesn't need to be defended. God's best defense is for you and for I to live wisdom, to live lives that look different than the world around us. God doesn't need us on social media trying to stand up for him or the ways of the Christian faith. He doesn't need it. And too many of us are entering into that space and participating in the foolishness of man. That's not helping God at all. And it certainly doesn't help us. It just highlights for us our own deficit. Now more than ever before, God's people, we need that eternal wisdom that God has promised to us. If we've learned anything over the past 2 years, we've learned that the world around us has plenty of worldly wisdom, but they have a huge deficit of godly wisdom. Where are they going to get that? They get it from God, from us. They got to see that it's different here as we walk with the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. We need God's wisdom, that tried, tested, and true, life-giving, freedom-giving, hope-giving, boundary-setting wisdom. So would you join me? Let's stand, and we're going to just pray, and then I'm going to invite our prayer team to come and minister down in the front. This is a great time to say to God, oh God, I have a deficit. Now, I'm being honest with you when I say I have a deficit. When I say ask my wife, I really mean it. My wife. I really mean it. We have a deficit, folks. We can't keep pretending like that's somebody else's problem. It's not. It's our problem. So God, we just ask tonight that you would help us to acknowledge, if we're struggling somehow to acknowledge, God, we have a deficit. Help us to see that deficit. And we're acknowledging tonight, God, freely, we need your wisdom. Like Solomon, we're saying we can't do this without your wisdom. It's too big. God, I don't have what it takes. I need your wisdom. Come and fill us. Give us that download of wisdom. Help us to, again, begin to walk in the fear of God, to shun evil in our lives, to call evil evil and to shun it, to not make friends with it any longer. We need your help. We need your help, God, and we ask for your strength by the power of your Spirit to come into our lives individually and corporately and give us that download of wisdom, that eternal divine wisdom that we're missing. We pray this in Yeshua's name. Amen. We're going to continue to worship. It's going to be some soft music, and we're inviting you to come for prayer. If you want more wisdom, our prayer teams are going to be down here in front. I want to invite our elders to come as well to suss out our need if we need more prayer partners down here in the front. And let's make this a place of prayer. If you want to visit, we want you to visit. The lobby is a great place to do that. And we look forward to seeing you again next Sunday night. But let's just continue to worship in this moment and seek God for his wisdom. Amen.